What is up, guys? Teddy Cornwell here. Welcome to the Underdog Talk, the world's most underrated podcast. But screw the Underdog Talk. You see him. I mean, one of the best in the business. I mean, guys, get ready for some expert analyses, insider information. I mean, you see him, the man behind it all, the man behind the camera, the big fella, hailing from Duke, Jay Bilas. What is up, sir? How you doing today, man?
Doing great, Teddy. How you doing?
Better that I'm speaking to Jay Bilas, I think, as anyone would in the thing. And honestly, I've had this question for almost a year now, and I've got to ask, what inspired you to pursue a career in sports media? And then how did you get the start in the industry?
Well, after having played in college and a little bit professionally, and I actually coached for a little while. I was a grad assistant on Coach K's staff in the early '90s. I thought basketball would be my life, and after getting married, my wife and I kind of thought about what's the best path for us. And I had worked a little bit in broadcasting while I was in college, not in front of the camera, but behind it as a production assistant, and I got to meet a lot of people. And I got an offer when I was practicing law in Charlotte to do basketball games on the radio, and I thought it would be fun to get out of the office and pursue it, but I wasn't sure where it would lead. And after starting to do games with ESPN, and I think it was 1995, I started doing more and more work, and it became where I needed to make a choice between my law practice and broadcasting. And obviously, I chose broadcasting, and it was a good decision for me. But it was nice to have that law degree in my back pocket, where if things didn't work out, or if I needed to spend more time at home, I could just practice law and put broadcasting aside. So that was a lucky break for me.
And sometimes that is life, Jay. But you've been a vocal advocate for college athletes' rights and compensation. What changes do you think need to be made to the current system? And how do you see the landscape of college sports evolving in the coming years?
Well, it's going to evolve toward athletes having full economic rights, which they should have had from the beginning, but never did. And now they've got limited economic rights in the name, image, likeness space. So they're making good money, but it's nowhere near their fair market value. As you know, college sports is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and everyone but an athlete can bargain for their fair market value, including every other non-athlete student. They get to earn or accept whatever they want in the marketplace in their chosen field, and it doesn't affect their status as a student. Nobody's saying, hey, you're putting education aside in order to make money. It's these ridiculous arguments that are made regarding to athletes so they can keep the status quo. They're kind of maddening after a while. But where I see it headed, absent Congress, passing some sort of federal law that would preempt all these different state laws and govern this, which frankly, I don't see happening. I think by the time it happens, we're going to move forward, and people are going to see that the world hasn't spun off its axis and it's working just fine. And the other part of that is, Congress has to decide whatever they pass, who's going to enforce it. And I don't think they want the federal government, running college sports in that regard and running an enforcement arm, enforcing federal law. But where I see it going is at some point in the relatively near future, schools are just going to sign players to contracts, just like they do with coaches and administrators and employees. And it'll actually make things. It'll give them a recognized market. They'll have more surety on numbers that they're dealing with, and they'll be able to put in protections for themselves. If an athlete gets in trouble with the law, they could terminate the contract if it's written in the contract as such, and academic difficulties, terminate the contract, things like that. But you can also have a buyout. If you sign a 3-year contract with a player and the player decides to leave after 1 or 2 years, there can be a buyout in there, just like there is with a coach. And that would certainly alleviate some of the concerns that schools have right now with player movement in the transfer portal. The NCAA is really good at creating adversity where none exists, and none exists here. They just have to open it up and reasonably regulate it. It's not that difficult.
So I totally agree on that. But what would you say to the smaller schools who don't have that money to get the athletes that can help their program and help bring money into the school?
The same thing you say with regard to they don't have the money to pay competitively in the coaching market
Right.
or for facilities or all
Right.
these other things. We don't restrict pay of workers at five-star restaurants because the local burger joint can't afford to pay the same amount to their employees. It's just business. And if you want, look, to me, it's simple. If you want to play, the game starts at 1 o'clock. What you pay your people is your business. And if somebody can pay more, tough. That's the way it goes. If these schools really wanted all of this to be equal and have what they like to call competitive balance, they would revenue share, and they don't. They all take what they earn, and they all want to make as much as they can. So when they start talking about restricting athletes to be competitive, it's a nonsensical, phony argument so they don't have to do it. If they wanted it to be competitive across the board, they would revenue share, and they don't. Until they revenue share, then I think it's hypocritical for them to talk about restricting one class of person, that being the athlete, when they don't restrict the pay of any other person involved in the collegiate sports space.
Has anyone ever told you you should be in charge of the NCAA? I mean, I feel like you would be the perfect person to be in charge of the NCAA. Has anyone actually ever said that to you? I'm actually interested now.
Well, people in media have said it, but nobody nobody in the system, because I think they see my views as being. Uh, I think a lot of people are realizing now that's where it's going, and that's where it's going to be, if you want to keep doing this. And one thing I know for sure, whether people say this is not what college sports should be about or whatever, nobody's going to stop playing, and nobody's going to stop selling this for every amount of money they can get. The NCAA could run college sports kind of like Augusta National Golf Club runs the Masters. The Masters could make so much more money if it wanted to. They could have more commercials, more signage, charge higher prices. I mean, if you've been there, it's magnificent. I mean, you pay reasonable prices for a sandwich, for a chicken sandwich or a pimento cheese sandwich and a beer, whatever you want. And you're taken aback by it. That's all you're charging. They could charge way more and make way more, but they choose not to. They choose to have it their way, and I admire that. The NCAA doesn't have to sign these gigantic contracts. They don't have to play 9:30 weekday games, 9:30 p.m. games. They're doing that for the money, and it's okay. I don't have a problem with it. This is America. It's a capitalist society,
Oh,
but you can't do that and at the same time restrict the revenue, the true revenue drivers, which are the athletes. And every school can do what they want. They're all market competitors. They choose what to pay their coaching staffs. They choose whether to fly private or commercial. They choose, how much to spend in facilities. They can all make those same choices with regard to their athletes. And if they want to go into Division II and not provide athletes anything, go ahead. But if you're going to compete in the big arena, you're going to have to allow your athletes to have those economic rights, in my view.
I agree. And speaking of athletes, you've had the opportunity to work with some of the biggest names in basketball, both as a player and obviously as the elite commentator you are. Who are some of the most memorable people you've worked with, and what have you learned from them?
Oh God, I've worked with the best of the best. I mean, I work with Dan Schulman now. I've worked with Sean McDonough and Mike Tirico and Chris Fowler in the studio. There's nobody better than Reese Davis. He's the best teammate I've ever had in anything. I worked with Dick Enberg and you name. I mean, I'm going down a laundry list of amazing broadcasters, but I think I've learned something different from all of them. Everybody does it a little bit differently and goes about it a little bit differently, but I think all of those have that they're impeccably prepared. The best of them, the broadcast is never about them. It's about the teams and the players and the coaches, and they're just a joy to be around. So I've been really fortunate with the people I've worked with, both in front of and behind the camera. I work with some of the most amazing pros, and the truth is, the real superstars, the people in front of the camera get all the credit, but the real superstars are the producers, directors, the sound guys, the tape room. I mean, it's remarkable what our people do and how the engineers, how they get the broadcast on and off. It seems like it's launching the space shuttle every game, and they do it seamlessly.
Yeah. And obviously, Jay, I was born in Chapel Hill, and we're having Matt Doherty on next week, who coached UNC, but obviously you went to Duke and you played with and coached with the legend Coach K. I mean, what was that experience like working with the best to ever do it?
Well, first, it's great you're having Matt Doherty on. He's a great guy and a really good friend. We played
Oh,
against each other in college and got to know each other then, and we've been good friends ever since. And Matt was a great player. He was one of the I hesitate to say the first, but he was one of the true versatile players in college basketball back in the 80s when we played. And he did everything: points, rebounds, assists. Really good defender, just a ultimate team guy. So I'm glad you're having Matt on. He's a great guy. But to your question about Coach K, I don't even know how to answer the question.
yeah,
His influence has permeated everything in my life,
yeah.
and I honestly, Teddy, I don't know where I'd be right now if it weren't for Coach K. When I came out of LA in 1982 and decided I wanted to play for him, and that was my decision. It wasn't I wanted to go to Duke. I wanted to play for him. I really believe that if he had recruited me, wherever he would have been, I mean, if he were at Central North Dakota Junior College, I don't think I would have gone there. But any of the schools I was looking at, if they swapped coaches, that's where I would have gone. That's how much I liked him
Wow.
when he was recruiting me. And I can't count all the things he's done for me to advance my career and my life. And decisions that I've made that he was influential in. He's been an incredible mentor, obviously coach,
Yeah.
and friend. And honestly, I don't know where I'd be without him. He's been that important in all of our lives. But you asked me about me and my life especially.
And shout out Coach K. I mean, a legend and just the best to ever do it. Now, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges facing both the NBA as a player who was in the NBA and then college basketball today? And how do you see these issues being addressed, Jay?
Well, I never played in the NBA. I was drafted and went to camp, but I went overseas and played, and that was the right place for me. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't look at it in terms of challenges. I think the NBA it's a global game, and
Yeah.
basketball outside of football, soccer is the most popular sport in the world, and basketball is the second most popular sport in the world. So its global reach is really impressive, and I think the NBA has done an amazing job of making it a global game. And it's incredibly popular. It's continuing to grow, and I think it'll continue to grow. College basketball, I think one of college's challenges is to, figure out what it really is. There's what they say it is,
Yeah.
and there's what it really is. And it's a multi-billion-dollar professional sports industry and entertainment industry. And it has an educational component to it. But I think it has to right now the marketing of the sport is not where it should be. There's way too much haggling over things that are going to be decided in the favor of the players going forward, and I don't know why. I know why. It's because they want to keep the money for themselves. But these schools have to wise up and allow players their full economic rights. That's where we're going to wind up. We might as well get there voluntarily, but it doesn't seem to be the accepted mode of thinking within the NCAA structure. But that's the biggest challenge, really, is trying to figure that out in a way that's palatable to the gigantic membership of the NCAA. We're going to get there. They're either going to be forced to do it or they're going to do it voluntarily because NIL they were forced to do,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
world's still firmly on its axis, and everybody's still making all the money. The checks are clearing on time, and all the games are being played. And they will be in the future when the players are being paid directly by the universities.
Yeah, and the players deserve to get what they deserve, like you said. Now, You've written several books on leadership and success. What are some of the key principles you believe are, essential for achieving success both on and off the court, Jay?
Well, I've only written one book. That's that toughness book. I haven't endeavored to write another one
Uh,
since then. But to me, leadership is always a big topic that's discussed. To me, I always go back to what General Martin Dempsey, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said about leadership. The tenets of it is character, competence, and humility. Character being who you are, and competence being an expert in your field, and then humility that it's not about you. It's a we mentality over a me mentality, a we first mentality. Yeah, I don't know a better leader than General Dempsey, and um, uh, to me, I'm often asked about the impact that I can have just on ESPN. And my answer is, ESPN's a big place, and how can I have an impact on such a big place? And really, the only thing I try to do is have an impact on my particular unit, my particular group, with the way I conduct my business, the way I interact with my colleagues, and maybe that has a positive ripple effect within our group. And if that extends outside our group, great. But I'm humble enough. I may not be humble, but I'm humble enough to know that there's a limit to my reach. And the leadership at our company at ESPN does a great job of setting the tone, and I think we have a great culture there. But it's an awfully big place, and when you have a place that big, I'm sure there are different cultures within the organization, and at least on the basketball side, I think ours is a very good one.
and I'll be not humble for you. I mean, you are the best of the best, and you kind of seen it all in both sides, the player, coach, analyst. But what is your biggest tip for someone who is looking to succeed in the college basketball atmosphere as a player?
Well, I mean, I think it's the same in anything. You have to have a certain amount of dedication to it, and a focus to what's important. And I think be mindful that it's about a process. Sometimes you get caught up in end result and destinations instead of the process, or what some people call the journey. And it's really an everyday thing that if you want to reach a certain destination as a player, as a coach, or as a broadcaster, it really starts with how you do your job today. What are you going to do today to make yourself better and improve, and to set yourself up for a future. That's really really all it is. Sort of the 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. If you want to get to a certain place, you have to do the right things today. And so as a player, rather than being concentrated on a championship, which is at the end of the year, your priority should be great practices every day, to have your best practice today, and then learn from that, and then have you an even better one tomorrow, and go about it that way. It's really that simple.
Like that. Be better than the day before now, Jay. My final question to you is, what has been your favorite sports moment? And that can be as a player, an analyst, or even a coach. I don't know if this is a even possible question. You've seen so much.
Well, I mean, if you're saying most exciting or things like that, when I was a grad assistant and Christian Leitner hit that shot against
Oh,
Kentucky in the Elite Eight. But there's so many that you have as a player. But I tend, at my age now, when I look back on all the things I've been able to do and experience, that you really look back on the interactions that you had with your teammates or your colleagues as being the most gratifying and the most important. The moments you have that are shown on highlights are one thing, but a lot went into those things, and a lot of those represent a lot of you know collective hard work and relationships that are really meaningful. And I don't think the team the teams that I played on, that the former players and my teammates, that were as close as we are now because we made a shot in a given game or won a certain game. It was because of the day to day, sort of respect and admiration we showed one another at that time, and that carried forward. So to me, it's the friends I had that I played with and played against that were the most meaningful.
And it's more than sports. I love it. Now, Jay, it's been such an honor and privilege talking with you. The floor is yours, and I'm really interested. Where can we find this book? Sorry, I got excited for more books coming, but where can we find this book? Is this something that we can find at Barnes and Noble, Amazon? We can find it on all those platforms, Jay?
Yeah, it's called Toughness. And I wrote it about 8, 10 years ago, whatever it is. And oddly enough, it's still out there and still selling, which is bizarre to me. But yeah, I wrote it a while ago, and it all stemmed from an article I wrote on the subject, and I expanded it into a book, and the book did really well, and is still selling, and it's still I'm asked about it a lot. And I was asked after it did well, I was asked to write another one. And I was like, there's nothing I feel as strongly about as I did with that. And also, it was quite an endeavor to write a book. I'd never done it before, and I learned a lot during the process. And maybe it taught me that I shouldn't write another one until I'm really ready to.
Yeah. And first two people to follow Jay on Instagram, which will be in the bio. We'll send you 2 copies of Toughness. I mean, I love the book. I think it's grit and it's passion. And I mean, Jay, thank you again for coming on. Guys, don't forget to follow Jay again. If you're not the first 2 people, Toughness is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I mean, Jay, I'm sure it's in your links as well on Instagram, right?
I don't know, but it's not that hard to find. And I
Yeah.
got a couple. I got a couple copies right here. If anybody wants to buy it, just knock on my door and they can buy it.
I love it. Well, check the book out. Jay, again, such an honor and privilege talking with you. I'm sure you'll be brought up in the Matt Doherty conversation, as you two were good rivals. UNC Duke. Always love that one. And guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Until next time, guys, Jay, the analyst, and the underdog out.